Wow, my people. Hey, this story loud. So President Tinubu let us meet say this guy can't come Nigeria. You for trap am down to wait for all these your slave masters. You never tire of slavery because you get money. Of which Africans, all of us don't dey tired. God really bless the land. But now they carry the whole thing they give slave masters. We are tired of slavery, sir. You can't say maybe you arrest this man, wait for France or America. And Japan president go come tell you thank you. Or Putin go come tell you thank you. All those militaries where they Americans will say, any disturbance for this guy again, all of them would resign. They will come to Africa to join him. You never see the video. They will come and join him because now they own military for America. My people, watch this video carefully.
A lion to dinner thinking he wouldn't smell the blood on the table. In the shadows of West Africa, while diplomacy wore a smile, betrayal sharpened its knives. President Ibrahim Traore was supposed to land quietly in Abuja, alone, unguarded, unsuspecting. But when the jet doors opened, it wasn't him. Because what they didn't know, what they always forget, is that you don't trap a man who sees in the dark. And this time, the hunter walked straight into his own snare. The game had changed. Africa was watching. Follow the channel to witness every move Traore makes. It was a quiet evening in Ouagadougou. The kind of silence that doesn't whisper, it weighs. The kind that warns you something is coming and it won't knock. Inside the presidential residence, Ibrahim Traore sat alone at his desk. The light above him flickered softly, casting sharp shadows over the cluttered surface. Papers were stacked like barricades, threat assessments, intelligence reports, intercepted communications, foreign interference, regional destabilization, ECOWAS pressure. They filled the room like smoke, slow, choking, invisible to those who don't look. Then the phone rang. The screen read, NG. Traore picked it up slowly, deliberately, and a familiar voice came through, warm, friendly, confident, but too smooth, too polished. It was Bola Ahmed Tinubu, President of Nigeria. Brother Ibrahim, how are you? Traore replied with a calm that was colder than courtesy. He knew that tone, that politician's lullaby, designed to soften you before they strike. Tinubu didn't waste time. Look, all this tension with ECOWAS, these sanctions, it doesn't have to continue. Let's meet, he said. Just you and me, Abuja. We sit, we talk, and we solve this as Africans, not enemies. There was a pause. Traore leaned back in his chair, his fingers steepled, eyes narrowed like a hunter listening to the wind. Peace talks? He asked, voice steady. Tinubu chuckled. Yes, of course. Just us, African leaders. You have my word. No interference, no traps, no France. Just a conversation between brothers. Silence. Then Traore spoke, slow and dry. I'll think about it. But the moment the call ended, he didn't feel reassured. Something in the air felt scripted, as if the whole call had been rehearsed. He stood, moved to the window. The lights of Ouagadougou twinkled in the distance, calm, oblivious. Then he made another call. Track all French diplomatic movements in Abuja, he ordered his intelligence chief, Kombele. I want eyes on every new face at Nnamdi Azikiwe Airport, and listen closely to EW channels. If this is a trap, I want to see it before it snaps. Understood, Mr. President, Kombele replied. Meanwhile, hundreds of miles away in Abuja, another call was already underway. A French official, nameless, careful, speaking in hushed tones, issued clear orders. Once he lands, don't let him leave. Ground the plane, delay him just long enough for us to act. The operation is ready. Understood, came the reply from a cold, clipped voice. Colonel Bako, a Nigerian intermediary. He won't even make it past the tarmac. And so the trap was set, an invitation dressed in brotherhood, a handshake, hiding handcuffs, a plan to bring down the last man France couldn't control. But what they didn't know was that Traore was already watching. News of the Abuja meeting began to spread quietly. Officially, it was a diplomatic mission, Burkina Faso's president invited to discuss peace and regional stability with ECOWAS, but behind closed doors it was something else entirely. The French embassy in Abuja extended its working hours. Unmarked vehicles entered a restricted hangar. Nigeria's DSS, the secret police, intensified surveillance around Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, all of it done without press, without questions, and without explanation. And in the middle of it all, President Ibrahim Traore remained silent. No confirmation, no denial, no statement, no tweet. His team posted no itinerary. The airport in Ouagadougou prepared a jet, but no one saw him board, and yet, precisely at 11:43 a.m., a private jet took off, bearing the flag of Burkina Faso. The headlines were instant. Headlines flashed like sirens across West Africa. Reporters lined up in Abuja, their cameras waiting to catch history or betrayal. In Nigeria, the trap was tightening. Security teams had their orders, not to welcome, but to contain. The moment Traore stepped off the plane, he'd be met not with a red carpet, but with detainment disguised as protocol, a holding room, a diplomatic delay, just long enough for outside hands to finish what they started. Inside a command center near the airport, a Nigerian intelligence officer, Major Kande, whispered into his headset, "Target jet approaching, landing in 10 minutes, confirm interception plan." Another voice replied, "Stand by, France wants eyes on him the moment the door opens." But something was wrong. When the plane touched down and the doors opened, it wasn't him. 2 diplomats stepped out, calm, silent, smiling like men already 10 moves ahead. "President Traore couldn't attend," one of them said. "He sends his regards." The Nigerian officers froze. Their formation broke not from attack, but confusion. This wasn't in the plan. This wasn't supposed to be clever, but it was. Inside a nearby hotel room, French agents monitoring the landing scrambled into chaos. Laptops slammed shut, phones lit up with red alerts. It took less than 30 seconds for panic to replace confidence. Because just as the world expected Ibrahim Traore to walk into a trap, he walked into a studio. Back in Ouagadougou, on live national television, Traore appeared in military uniform. No medals, no theatrics, just the cloth of duty and a spine of iron. He sat straight-backed, steady-eyed, and addressed the nation. "They thought they would find me landing quietly in Abuja," he said. "But I do not answer to traps. I do not answer to puppets. I answer to the people." Then came the line that would echo across Africa. "You cannot arrest a lion by calling him to dinner." The studio went silent, not out of fear, but reverence. Online, the internet ignited like dry grass under lightning. The broadcast punched through firewalls, borders, and every lie dressed as diplomacy. President Ibrahim Traore, seated behind a simple wooden desk, no gold, no flag wall, just raw truth, looked straight into the camera, not angry, not loud, just clear, focused, unshaken. And then he began to speak. "Last week, I received a personal invitation from President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He said it was for peace. He said it was for Africa. But it was not peace they wanted. They asked me to land alone. No security, no press, only trust." He leaned forward, elbows on the desk. Not just a man explaining, a man warning. "But when I trust my people, not the hands that once sold Africa in silence." The room behind him was still. Not a cough, not a step, just the hum of history catching its breath. He continued, "Inside Nigeria, certain elements with foreign backing prepared to arrest me in secret. They called it ECOWAS Protocol, but we know what it really was. A French operation, planned, funded, approved." Then he held up a folder, thick, weathered, marked in red. "Here are the recordings, the messages, the transfer logs, the security memos sent from Paris to Abuja 2 days before the call was even made. The voice of a foreign power trying once again to decide which Africans are allowed to lead." The screen behind him lit up. No music, no editing, just raw evidence. Audio clips played, whispered voices, confirmed locations, a time-stamped directive. Ensure Ibrahim Traore does not leave Nigeria without approval. And in bold, stabilization protocol. But this time the world didn't believe the spin. Because Traore hadn't given them a theory. He gave them the receipts. That same hour, in the marble hallways of Abuja, panic swept through official circles. The French embassy refused to comment. ECOWAS released a vague statement about miscommunication. But online, there was no hiding. They tried to trap Traore, but Africa's eyes were wide open. No more puppet leaders, no more backroom signatures sealed in European wine. The streets of Ouagadougou filled again, not in protest, but in pride. Young men waved flags. Women sang in local languages, some with tears, some with fire. Old men sat on plastic stools and whispered, "We've never seen a leader like this." And across Africa, the message was clear. This wasn't just an attempted trap, it was an attempted message. And that message had failed. Because Ibrahim Traore didn't just dodge an ambush, he turned it into a mirror and forced the world to look at its reflection. The video had barely been online for 3 hours, and the reaction was already unstoppable. Across Burkina Faso, people gathered in streets, town squares, schoolyards, not to demand answers, but to say thank you. Not many presidents escape a trap. Even fewer return with evidence, and almost none do it without firing a single bullet. In Mali, a group of students painted a mural on the side of a university wall. It showed a lion walking calmly past a hunter's cage, untouched, unchained, and unafraid. Beside it, they painted 5 words: "You cannot cage the people." In Niger, a radio host ended his morning show early. He told his listeners, "Africa is awake, and the ones who used to pull the strings, they're now pulling excuses." Across Nigeria, the situation grew complicated. Some denied the plot. Some tried to spin the narrative. But on the streets of Lagos and Abuja, something unexpected happened. Young Nigerians began to speak loudly. One woman said on TikTok, "If our leaders invite others just to betray them, then who do they really work for?" A man tweeted, "Traore is a lion. Our own would sell the jungle just for a handshake from France." And at that moment, the divide between leaders and citizens became impossible to ignore. Because this wasn't just a Burkina Faso issue anymore. This was about every African country where decisions were still being made in whispers, with foreign hands holding the pen. In Senegal, a group of market women began wearing t-shirts that read, "We are all Traore now." In Ghana, civil society leaders held emergency roundtables. One speaker asked, "If they can try to trap him today, what will they do to our own tomorrow?" Online, the story surged like a current. Millions watched the clip. Journalists cross-checked every document. Even French news outlets, slowly, cautiously, were forced to report on the leak. No answers, just pressure. And through it all, Ibrahim Traore said nothing. He didn't tweet. He didn't threaten. He didn't have to. The people had taken over the message. And the message was simple. We are not waiting for permission to rise. We are just waiting for the moment. The video didn't just go viral. It set the continent on fire. Across Africa, people weren't just shocked by the attempted trap. They were hurt. Not just by France, but by betrayal from within. Because this wasn't just about foreign interference anymore. This was about one African leader, President Tinubu of Nigeria, being used to lure another African leader into a setup with foreign fingerprints smudged all over it, and that stung. Especially because Tinubu had once stood on global stages, speaking proudly about African unity, about Pan-African progress, about brotherhood. But now, it seemed, he had acted as a middleman for betrayal. In Kenya, a popular radio host asked on air, "How can Nigeria, the giant of Africa, become a delivery boy for France?" In South Africa, a viral podcast host broke down the moment the footage dropped. "You can't tell us we're brothers in public, then hand one of us over like a package when the cameras are off." Tinubu doesn't just owe Traore an apology, he owes the whole continent one. Hashtags exploded across every platform. Watched Traore, did not fall, we stand with. Traore, not in our name, Tinubu Africa, is watching expose the plot. Nigerian youth, already disillusioned with their government, felt the betrayal cut deepest. On the streets of Lagos, university students gathered in front of ECOWA's buildings, holding signs that read, "Not in our name." We are African first, not agents of the West. Traore stood for all of us. Tinubu stood for silence. Artists joined in. Musicians followed. A rising Afrobeat artist dropped a freestyle online. He called him brother on the phone, but sold him out once he flew alone. The lion saw the trap from home. Now the puppet shakes on his own throne. And with every view, every comment, every beat, the betrayal became harder to bury. Because the people had stopped asking for truth. They had started declaring it. Meanwhile, in Abidjan, posters of Constantine Kabore, the coup plotter who had fled Burkina Faso weeks earlier, appeared near the gates of the French embassy. Red paint slashed across his face. Beneath it, one word: traitor. France tried to downplay the operation. A spokesperson spoke vaguely. "We respect African sovereignty. We were not part of any such attempt." But no one believed it. Not anymore. And Tinubu? He went silent. No press conference, no statement, no denial. That silence spoke louder than any microphone. Even inside Nigeria, the story began to turn. Senators whispered behind closed doors. One lawmaker was overheard saying, "This Traore story has changed everything. We need to tread carefully. The people are watching, like never before." And they were. Watching not just a story, but a symbol. A young leader from Burkina Faso who stood without backup, without permission, without apology, and faced down an empire. He had no tanks behind him, no lobbyists beside him, just the truth, and a nation that refused to be bought. Across the continent, something shifted. This was no longer just a political event, it was a mirror, and every African capital was forced to look. In cafes and parliaments, in classrooms and churches, a new question echoed. What if leadership meant loyalty to people, not power? What if sovereignty wasn't something to request, but something to reclaim? From Burkina Faso, a signal had gone out. Not in slogans, not in bullets, but in clarity. That signal said, "You cannot arrest the future. You cannot colonize what has awakened. You cannot buy back what dignity has remembered." And Ibrahim Traore, he didn't raise his voice. He didn't call for vengeance. He simply stood still. And the continent moved around him. They called him radical. They called him reckless. But millions saw something else. A captain, a mirror, a beginning. Because this was not the end of a story. This was the start of a new one. A story where Africa does not ask, Burkina Faso does not kneel, and Traore does not flinch. Ibrahim Traore didn't just survive the trap. He revealed the blueprint behind it and broke it open. Drop your thoughts in the comments because this time the world is watching Africa write its own script. Hit like, share this story, and subscribe if you believe real leadership begins with truth, not permission. And before you go, say a quiet prayer not just for Traore, but for every young soul learning to rise without fear. May God protect the captain and guide the winds beneath the flag of Burkina Faso.